Every day I am learning. Just now our friend mentioned that I have already explained how I escaped on many occasions. I can add one more item. What happened about a week ago. Now these are the things that we cannot account or explain. What is behind? What sort of forces are working? A week ago, when I was lying down there, you know the place, always where I lie down and read my books, reading and writing and everything I do there. So when I was lying down there, you know that monk who came from Canada, young monk who gave a talk here, he came to see me. Then suddenly he wanted to know something. He asked one question. So it is very difficult for me to answer the question lying down, so I sit down. Immediately, just only few seconds, so many things dropped on my pillow, because I was lying down like this, pieces of this ceiling, broken, sharp, very sharp and like glasses. Then I saw one leg also coming down, one man's leg. I thought he's going to drop on my head, and so much, still there. All those things dropped on my pillow. If I were there, my nose and the face and the eyes, everything will be affected within few seconds. Now how I escape? So that is why I always advise you, whenever you do some meritorious deeds, remember the devas and your departed ones. We need actually for our worldly life their protections, because some of them can keep an eye on us. So the Buddha never advised us to forget them, just to think only about your philosophy or psychology and this and that. He started from the very beginning as your duties. Amongst the 10 kinds of duties that human beings have to fulfill, there are 2 things the Buddha has mentioned. First thing, don't forget the devas when you perform some meritorious deed. Second thing, don't forget your departed ones every time when you do some good thing. He said these are your duties. Yes. Today, I'd like to explain something which is very important for our life. Life means for our journey, life process. I do not know whether you can remember the meaning of this word, prarthana. This is Sanskrit. Can you remember? Our prarthana. Cannot. Pali word is prarthana. Now, aspiration. Our aspiration. Our wish. Our will, our determination. Now you can understand, isn't it? Although we perform a lot of merits or good deeds or religious activities, we must know how to make use of them. Be wise. And this is the advice given by the Buddha. That is called our prarthana. Some people say only for Only as our duty do we perform these good deeds. That is not the Buddhistic attitude. It is not duty. Duties are different. If not for the sake of giving, I have given. That is not the Buddhistic attitude. I just to please them I have given something. Also not the Buddhistic attitude. By knowing why we should give. So when we practice this, then we give the chance for our mind to understand, to appreciate, and to reduce certain evil forces from the mind. And that is the Buddhist attitude. I can quote the Buddha saying. He says, Dānaṁ khalu sabhārena sagga manusa bhogadam. Sagga manusa. Sagga swarga means heaven or paradise. Manusa, human life. Sagga manusa. Bhoga, property or wealth. Bhoga. Parinama vaseneva, parinama here prarthana, aspiration. Hotu mokkhopanisayam, the spiritual development, mental purity, final salvation, nirvanic bliss, we never gain unless we cultivate this aspiration through our meritorious deeds. Full meaning. Remember this. Whenever you do some meritorious deeds, it is not necessary for you to wish or create any aspiration in your mind by the virtues or by the power of these merits. May I get the chance to be born in heaven to enjoy my life. Not necessary. If not, by the power of this merit, may I get the chance to be born in a very rich family to enjoy my life in the next life. Not necessary. If you do so, what will happen? You increase your craving, you pollute the purity of your mind, and you devalue the spiritual aspect in your meritorious deeds, because you are crazy only for your enjoyment, only for your pleasure. We narrow, we lower the real validity of the meritorious deed. That is what the Buddha says. Dānaṁ khalu sabhāvena, naturally, he says, naturally you gain these things. Because this is the reaction, this is the natural effect of the good deeds that we have done. But you should not develop your craving because of this. You gain something in return for what you have given. It is natural. So if you do not create this determination in your mind, you miss the important aspect or the good result. That means for you to gain the chance to cultivate your spiritual way of life, for you to get rid of all your worldly suffering, for you to attain your final salvation, you miss. For that you need aspiration. Remember this. Don't lower the real religious value of your meritorious deeds, only creating such ideas in your mind you want to enjoy your life in the next birth. But don't worry, you get it. another aspect. When you develop your understanding, mutual understanding, your attachment towards something or somebody, and this mental attitude prevail and crystallize in your mind every day, or maybe 100 times a day. You are going on renewing this, strengthening and strengthening this feeling, your attachments, your inclinations, your understanding. Husband and wife, if they are very understanding person, if they have real attachment and love wholeheartedly toward each other, every day they are going on developing this attachment. It is a very healthy attitude, not un-Buddhistic. Understand? It's a very healthy and very useful attitude, because you can continue this life after life. You meet the same person again and again and again and again, and you know each other. Compatibility, understanding is very easy. Not necessary to struggle to study the other person. The magnetic power is there. One is willing to sacrifice his or her life for the sake of the other person because of that strong attachment, understanding. Then one is ready to undergo any kind of suffering for the sake of husband or the wife, or sacrifice his or her own comfort for the sake of the other person. Sacrifice the life. When you study certain birth stories of the Buddha, previous birth stories, how his wife sacrificed her life for the sake of her husband. He said, I am ready to die to fulfill your wish. I don't want to run away for my own protection or for my own happiness. Even the final birth as King Vesantara, after spending, that was the final human life, then rebirth has taken place in Tusita heaven, Tusita Devaloka. Then rebirth taken place again as Prince Siddhartha. So that was the last human life. So at that time, you know, he was practicing charity, dana, nothing but dana. So when a beggar came and asked the children, he said he is willing, but mother was not there at that time. Very easily he could have done that. Then another old man came and asked, I have no servant, I am very old. I heard that you donate everything whatever people come and ask. Is it possible for me to take away your wife to look after me? He is an old man. Then what did he say? He was a king at that time, but gone back to the jungle. Well, I cannot force her. It is up to her. If she is willing to go with you, I'll be very happy. Of course, today there are so many wives, husband will be very happy. If wife go away with another person, he can sleep very peacefully. There are many cases. Not that type of sacrifice. Then ask her opinion. She said, I know you are practicing dana. It is my duty to fulfill your wish. I know I have to suffer, but I am ready. She agreed. Just to fulfill your wish, I am ready to go with that old man to look after it. And now this is the deeply rooted understanding, cooperation, to fulfill their wishes without any conflict, misunderstanding. We cannot develop this at once. The development has taken place life after life, strengthening, developing and developing and developing and developing. Then compatibility is there. But in many cases, when you study their married life, you can see they have no heart-to-heart understanding. Either sake of a property, or beauty, or complexions, or features, either man or woman agree to marry the other person. So this love, this attachment won't last long. It's very uncertain. No inner feeling. Then after a few years, start misunderstanding, conflicts, argument, then separate. Because they have not developed such understanding earlier. And now you can understand why aspiration is important, even for you to lead a worldly life, not only for you to attain nirvana. You like your children. They are very obedient, very understanding, very intelligent children. And you think, how nice if we can have the same children in the next life. There is no difficulty. So, children and parents, both parties must cultivate their understanding, attachment, then attachment and understanding, these two things are not enough. Remember this. Something else is very important. What is that? What is that thing? No. We must have very good karma, my dear friend. You have attachments and love and everything. What? One person is religious minded, the other person is very cunning and wicked and cruel and dangerous. Two different kind of karmas. Although they have attachments and understanding, there are two kind of karmas cannot merge, cannot work together. That is why it is necessary for us to perform the same type of good karmas to support us. One person has accumulated lot of good karma. The other person has not done, not accumulated. Then there will be lot of differences. So attachment, love, understanding plus karma. When these qualities are ready, then you can continue life after life. So now let us take the Buddha again. Same husband, same wife, same children. Life after life. Of course, as King Vesantara, at that time he had two children, one son and one daughter. But as Prince Siddhartha, he had only one son. Reduce another one. Only one. Then he says, my children, my wife. Started long ago. But life after life, same husband, same wife, same children. They had more than enough karmas to support them. They have strong attachment and inclinations and understanding to fulfill their wishes, their duties, their obligations without neglecting them. So, aspiration is important for us to carry on our worldly life without facing many problems, especially married problems. Husband and wife and parents and children, biggest problems in this world. Because they have not developed their understanding, cooperations and attachment earlier during their previous birth. They are strangers. Many are strangers, but there are very few. There is a story, Matika Mata and Pita, husband and wife, nearly 90 years old. So one day, both of them approached the Buddha, a very devout Buddhist. Everybody knew. Then the Buddha asked, have you got any problems, any difficulties? When they said, so far we never had any misunderstanding, heated argument, jealousy, suspicions in our life. We do not know how many years, more than 40 to 50 years, maybe 60 years, married life. They say they never faced any problems, any difficulties, any misunderstanding. The very day when we married, say 60 years ago, the love, the attachment that we had towards each other, even today, still the same, no changes, never fade away. There is a saying, when a man or woman grow old, his or her love increase. Increase the love, physical body decay. So here, the Buddha has introduced these two to the audience. It is a very good example, living example for all of you. Look at this couple. Again they said, we have no any other complaint, only weakness due to our old age. That's all. Then the advice given by the Buddha is very important for all of us. In Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha says this. I think you know this. When you are weak or sick physically, don't allow your mind also to be sick. So what a wonderful advice. We invite so many thousands of many other problems and trouble when we allow our mind to worry about our sickness. If we can maintain healthy mind, if we can maintain confidence when we are very sick, and if we think that we are not scared of death, that gives wonderful courage and support for us to maintain healthy mind, then the sickness also slowly fade away. Because mental energy, mind over matters. When the organs and the glands and the hearts and brain cells, blood circulations and everything in our physical body rejuvenate, become active, vitalize mental energy. When we worry about our sickness, we support our sickness to aggravate, to develop. Because that disheartened, frustrated, worried mind lower the functioning of our glands and all the organs in the body. It's very practical, very meaningful. Can prove scientifically. See what a beautiful advice the Buddha has given to us. Don't worry when you are sick. My own experience, I have told you this, I repeat again and again. About 15 years ago, I had 3 heart attacks. Few doctors, very frankly, they did not tell me, they informed the temple. There is no hope. The heart is completely collapsed, no more heartbeat. So, but I was fully conscious. Still I can laugh, I can talk, and the doctors come and say, you cannot talk. I said, doctor, if I can talk, what harm is there? You cannot talk, very dangerous, they say. Because I never lost my confidence. Never. I never thought that I am going to die. Never. Again, I never had any worry in my mind about death. That means I am not scared of death. And then I strengthened the mind, got back my normal health. So after 1 month, when I was discharged, the heart specialist doctor told me, I have seen thousands of cases. When I compare your case with them, actually, more than 95% of them have gone home through the mortuaries. He is not a Buddhist. When he used his own language, he said, I really cannot understand, according to your heart condition at that time, why the God did not want to take away your soul. That is his language, according to his religion. Then I told him, doctor, actually I know the secret. Because there is a disagreement between God and me. He knows this very well. Therefore, he did not want to invite trouble for nothing. That is why he did not want to take away my soul. So I am telling you how my confidence strengthened my life and got back my normal life and health because of that confidence. That is what the Buddha says here. Be cheerful. Don't show your sulky face. Don't cry. Don't worry. Don't think that you are going to die. Then the sickness also slowly fade away. So this advice was given by the Buddha to this old couple. No doubt you are very old, you are very weak, but maintain healthy mind. Mind never become old, remember. And life never dies. Because life is an energy. Physical body may die, may disappear. That is physical body, not life. Then why do you worry about that? That means you never die. Your physical body will die. So when this physical body decay and disappear, your life will continue. Never give up. No one can stop. Now this is the way how we have to analyze. Another thing, great people or understanding people never try to make use of this physical body to violate, to disturb or to destroy others, to protect themselves. Why? They can destroy others or they can kill others to protect themselves. By doing that, they can protect their physical body, not their life. They can commit a lot of evil or cruel thing to protect their life. Life means physical body. Then, after that, that life becomes miserable one. Because that life will continue, the physical body will drop here one day, collapse. And you had a fight to protect this physical body, but one day this will collapse here and disappear. But the life will continue. And you had to carry with you what you have done. Arthagrihe nirtante smasane mitra bandhava sukritam duskritam chaiva. It's a very nice saying in Sanskrit language. I think you have heard from me, but there are many who have not heard and better to repeat. For us to ponder, to think, then slowly we can adjust our life. Not at once, take time. Because understanding or realizations take place later, not at once. Artha grihe nivrittante. During our lifetime, we are going on collecting, accumulating so many things as our property. Lands and houses, money and jewelry and so many things. Yes, they are very useful. We like them. But after our death, everything what we have accumulated remain there. We cannot carry with us. Remember this. Others can use. Artha gruhe nirtante. Smasane mitra bandhava. Mitra bandha. Bandhu. friends and relatives. Our friends and relatives follow us, our dead body, up to graveyard, or nowadays crematorium. Only up to that day. After that they will come back. Then what happened to you? There's nobody to join with you. Whether you are rich or poor, you have to go alone. Here. But you never go alone. Sukritan duskritan. During your lifetime you did not keep quiet. You have done a lot of things. Good things and bad things. These are the only things that you carry with you, remember it. Because you have done these things by using your mind. They are in your mind, in your subconscious mind. The cruelty, anger, jealousy, greed and craving and all those things that you use to do evil thing, bad thing, are recorded. You may have forgotten it, but recorded already. So you never go alone. Carry these two. Then weigh which one is heavier, which part, whether black or white. So when life proceeds from here, and this life, this energy, with the cooperations of so many other things, will be landed again somewhere, according to the gravity, the weight of that good deeds or bad deeds. Say 90% bad deeds, 50% good deeds you have done. Then very seldom you get the chance to have a better life. Of course it is for the time being, not forever. This is the meaning. So, during our lifetime we collect different kind of treasures, valuable things. Nidhana. Nidhana means treasure. Whatever we collect and keep somewhere, that is called nidhana, treasure. We value our money, jewelry, and lands and houses and anything share. Angama nidhana, jangama nidhana, thawara nidhana, anugamika nidhana, 4 kinds of treasures we are collecting. Angama nidhana, the treasure that we collect to carry with us when you go somewhere. You carry certain things with you. Travel stack, money, and certain things for you to use on the way. One kind of treasure. Angama nidhana. Then jangama nidhana. Certain things for you to wear, to use. Chain, gold, and ring, diamonds, beautiful clothing, your treasure. So, for you to use, beautify, to decorate your treasure. You like that? No harm. Buddhism never says you should not do that. But we must know the fact. Thawara nidhana, another kind of treasure. You cannot carry with you, but remains there. Your land, your houses, and your paddy fields, tin mines or gold mines. You cannot carry with you, but remain as your treasure, as your property. But all these three kind of treasures that you have collected during your lifetime, you have to drop here when you are going to depart from this world. You cannot carry with you. Cannot carry your tin mine, your lands, your houses, your diamonds, your jewelry, your traveler's check, your currency note, your beautiful clothing, shoes. You know, one lady, when she had to run away from the country, she has taken as much as possible she can, do you know how many thousands, but left out behind later few thousands of blouses, few thousands of shoes for one human body. Can you imagine? This is the nature of craving. Poor people's money. Then there is one treasure that is called Anugamika Nidhana. Anugamika, carry with you. Understand, you are learning Pali, that is why I am training you. Anugamika, carry with us. Because we cannot carry the other three things. Our money, traveler's check, jewelry, diamonds, or land, houses, and whatever it may be, we cannot carry. But there is only one kind of treasure that we can carry with us. That is called our own karma. Just now I mentioned. Only our own karma, but I cannot carry your karma. Just now I told you, husband and wife can develop their own attachments and everything, but they must have equal good karma to be born again the same status, at the same level. If they have their own different type of karmas, then there will be some difficulty there. So husband cannot use the karma performed by the wife. Wife cannot make use of the good karmas accumulated by the husband. That is individual. Just like when you are sick, when wife is sick, husband cannot take medicine to cure her sickness. She must take medicine. When husband is hungry, husband can say, I'm very tired to eat, so I sleep, you better eat on behalf of me. It doesn't work. It's exactly like this. Karma is like this. So, our karma, either good karma or bad karma. But no one can live even for 1 minute without creating a karma. 3 kinds of karma, either good karma, bad karma, neutral. Mostly neutral, neither good nor bad. But karmic effect we experience within this life. Mind create lot of karmas without doing anything. Then the word that we use, utter, create good and bad karma. Then the action, how we use our physical body to do certain things, create good karma and bad karma. This mind just projects the concept or the belief or the habit or anxieties from the mind. Then stir the hidden anger or jealousy or grudge or some evil forces. Then it will become bad karma. If they are good ones, then good karma. But such karmas are not strong. Maybe evaporated later when there are some other strong karmas. This is the nature of karmas that we accumulate during the sleep. This is the nature of karmas that we accumulate during the sleep. Not very strong. Besides that, whether people have religion or not, whether they believe that there is such thing as karma. That is immaterial. Remember, this is natural. Anger, jealousy, craving, ignorance are natural. Whether people believe in God or not, whether they have religion or not, whether they believe in karma or rebirth or not, these things are natural. So these things naturally create bad action, bad thoughts, bad words. That is called bad karma. How can we deny this? Again, we also have positive side in our mind. We have kindness, and sometimes we are very honest, but not always. And we tolerate certain things, and we develop our goodwill and kindness towards others. Even in a cruel man's mind also, occasionally certain good thoughts appear. So he also can create some good karmas. So this becomes our treasure that we carry forward to condition or to have another life, either pleasurable or miserable. This our own karma is responsible. The God has nothing to do with this. Devil has nothing to do with this. Our own karma. So when you suffer, don't blame poor God. He has not done anything for you. You are responsible for that. The devil is your imagination. See? Now, let us come back to aspiration. Why it is necessary for us to cultivate this aspiration in our mind? Because our mental attitude is very, very uncertain. This is the nature of the mind. Today I can make up my mind not to do certain things. Tomorrow, certain ideas, either due to temptation or irritation, I change my mind. Then I violate my promise. This is the nature of the mind. The difficulty of maintaining the same mental attitude is the biggest problem we are facing. It is not that we cannot understand or we are ignorant. We know many things that we commit are bad. When we are going to bluff a person, we know it is wrong. Can we say we do not know that it is wrong? We know. But temptation, craving, cannot control that mind at that time. Then we do that. This is the nature of the mind. So, there are 5 hindrances. They always disturb our mind. They are called Pancha Nivarana. Pancha, 5. Nivarana, hindrances or obstruction. Among so many others, these 5 are very common. So, if we do not create any aspiration in our mind, these 5 hindrances always muddle up, mix up, mislead the mind. To avoid these hindrances, and we must have a guideline to follow this method. And then we can get rid of these hindrances. That aspiration, that strong determination, that ambition, that good ambition, become a very strong, very dynamic force in our mind. We go on developing this. How did the Buddha gain his enlightenment? You know very well. There was nobody to give him anything, any divine power, any divine message. He says, and there is no other teacher who could teach me how to gain this. Then how did he get it? People cannot understand. And then he says, how he developed these things, life after life. How many lines were there? The very day when he started, when he created this aspiration, this determination in his mind, he went on developing this aspiration in three ways. Mano panidhaya, vachi panidhaya, kaya panidhaya. Three ways. First, I started by developing this in his mind, that I want to become a Buddha. Then reduce certain evil forces from his mind. Then went on developing his mental attitude. Then vachi panidhana, by using his word, he announced, I am doing all these good deeds not for my own benefit, not only for my own salvation, but to become a Buddha. Announce. Then he guarded his mouth to avoid bad things that we do by using our mouth. Develop. Then come to kaya panidhana. Kaya means body. How he used his physical body to avoid, not to do certain bad things, and to do certain things to serve others, to protect others, to save others. Then he says, I am doing this not for my own sake, own benefit, own salvation, but to become a Buddha. And that is called aspiration. Then he went on reducing all the evil deeds what human beings are doing, up to zero, until he reached there and sit down under the Bodhi tree. He went on reducing all the evil deeds. Then he went on cultivating all the great virtues, good qualities. Life after life. How many good things are there for us to cultivate? He developed, completed. Then he went on developing his mind, his knowledge, his understanding and wisdom. Aspiration is behind. Mental habit is behind. Then, another line. He maintained complete purity in his mind. Of course, when he reduced the evil thoughts, when he cultivates the good thoughts, good deeds, when he develops his mind through his understanding, purity naturally appears. So the purity and knowledge or wisdom, then eradications of evil thought, cultivations of all the great virtues, four things. Through his aspiration, then the biggest problem, even modern psychologists cannot understand. No, they cannot imagine this. How he carried, maintained those mental qualities and the virtues and the knowledge and wisdom that he developed during his previous birth. There is nobody who can explain how. That is the power of that aspiration, karmic energy, determination, aspiration, ambition. That booklet is no more. Last time I have prepared a booklet called "Is it wrong to be ambitious?" Because some people have misunderstanding about Buddhism. I explained very clearly. The Buddha had the biggest ambition. What is that? His ambition was to become a Buddha. Then what sort of ambition we develop in our mind, we have to analyze. Then we can say this is good, this is bad, this is excellent, this is normal. That ambition is very important, but it must be a good thing, not selfish ambition. So I have explained now, for our worldly life, family life, married life also, this aspiration is important if you know how to develop and practice. Again, if you want to have a pleasurable, peaceful, prosperous life hereafter, also you gain when you develop this aspiration, but don't be crazy by developing your craving for that. Now if you think, by the virtues of the merits, you know at once you cannot attain nirvana, still early. There will be another life. Then you like to have another life. Then you can aspire. You can mold that life. That is what you recite every time. Yes. Imina punya kammena, by the power of this punya, this karma, ma me bala samagamo. I hope and pray not to follow the fools and wicked people. Keep away from them because they can mislead us. Ma me bala, low. Those who have low mentality, keep away from them. Satang samagamo hotu, satang, wise people, virtuous people, understanding people. Let me have a chance to associate, to work, to live with good people. And then you get the chance to be born in a good family, not a wicked family, cruel family, who mislead you. You can have better parents, good husband, good wife, good children. Yava Nibbana Pattiya, until I attain my final goal, Nirvana. Let me continue this way of life, life after life. Then you never go astray. You never go back to jungle to behave like animals. You have correct path. Your aspiration is supporting you, but you must have good karmas until you attain Nirvana. Now you can understand. So, why aspiration is important? Don't say that you are doing only for this giving sake or that sake or this sake. No. must have proper understanding why you should do this, for what purpose, and what you need. But that you have to aspire wisely, not foolishly. That is what the Buddha says. Don't be crazy only for worldly pleasure, because they appear and disappear. After that you worry again. I think enough, 9:30. So, you learned the nature of aspiration today. Tomorrow I have to go to Penang. Okay, see. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkhantu loka sasanang ittavata ca ambehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya Devo asatu kalena sassa sampatti hetu ca pito bhavatu loko ca raja bhavatu dhammiko idang vo jati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satam samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. So now, I would like to invite Reverend Swanno. I do not know whether he is going to speak Penangokian or in English. It's up to him.
Venerable sirs, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, actually I told my friend I'm too tired to talk. I've been talking continuously for the last 1.5 months, every night. It was only last night that I had a break. So actually there was nothing in my mind. So the subject of karma has come in. I will add a little thing, how Vachikama is created. In that particular case, Chakupala lost his eyesight when he attained Arahanta. But the wife who was at home didn't get blind. There is another case in the Jataka story, Sama, I think the story of Sama, when the Buddha was born as a child of these three people, father, mother and a child, were in the jungle practicing meditation. And then one day the father and mother went to a place and it was sudden heavy downpour, and both mother and father rested under a tree. Then suddenly a snake came out, probably it hissed, and both of them got their eyesight lost. And Sama was searching for the parents, eventually found them, and then prepared everything for them. Never mind, I will take care of you. In that particular case, there was a footnote saying that at one life, he was also a physician. And then the lady who promised to be a slave suddenly turned out against. She said, nothing, you see my eyesight, the redness is gone, but I'm still blind. But actually the eyesight is all right. And then he said, oh, this lady is trying to cheat me. Okay, I know what to do. So she went, the physician went to the kitchen and was preparing something, some ointment to make this lady blind. And the wife was asking, what's wrong? This lady is trying to cheat me. She is now all right, but because she refused to be a slave, she said, I'm still not all right. Now I'm going to put something to make her permanently blind. And here the wife say, Padang ilah. Padang is serve her right lah. That simple word, serve her right lah. So when the man got blind, the wife also got blind. So this sort of thing you can see, Vachikarma is there. So karma is a very wonderful thing. Sometimes I put it in my own way. I put it as waves. Waves, or you call, if you go to a hill and shout, "Hey, Akau, you stupid fellow!" After a short while, the sound will come, "Akau, you're a good fellow." Can it happen? It cannot. Exactly that thing will come. "Akau, you're a stupid fellow," and the voice will come, "Akau, you're a stupid fellow." And this is called physical action. It can be seen. You throw a ball on the wall very hard, the ball will bounce back on you. And if you scold the wall, "Stupid fellow, why you hit me so hard?" Something is wrong with you. So, if you take a stone and throw the pebble into a pond, you will see the ripple going out. That is karma, and the reaction, vipaka. And if you look carefully, still karma will go, and the still reaction will be flowing. Two, back, but getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So there is such a thing as physical karma, and this physical karma, if you are in the bad, you are a very irritable person, and your mother asks you to do anything, and you are not pleasing her, is a stupid fellow, always disturbing me. In the middle of my lesson, always calling me. Probably you might do like that, yeah. And then maybe you juling her, as a stupid fellow, So this is called physical action. Another child will be different. "Akau, please go and buy me some sugar. After I want to cook this, and after daddy comes 12:30, and then he says, "This one not well cooked, please go and make it." "Okay, mom, I'll go." How pleasing, how wonderful. So this action which the second son has done pleases the mother very well. What a wonderful child. The moment I ask him to go, he goes. Now these two children have got two different karma. Physically, one like that and with the squint eye, another one readily doing. And other karmas come into play, you know. One day, by some life ends, and karma works it exactly the same thing. When this child who is displeasing the mother, he will be born among a person, a lady who does not bother to, or who has no liking for the child. And probably she will tell the husband, "Ennara, irukura." And then the husband will say, "Stupid fellow, I told you not to have any more child. Why you still produce another child?" Go to the midwife, press it down, press. That's what many people did before this family control. And they press, and with the result, the child is injured. So chape, limping. And then come back with a cock eye because she did like that. And you say it is science. But the father is not cock eye. The mother is not cock eye. Grandfather not cock eye. Grandmother not cock eye. How can the child get cock eye? Karma has taken its place. Physical action. And that is what I call karma. And children must always try to please the mother. When you please the mother, the mother will say, "Wonderful child, man. Never displease me. Always full of nice things." And the mother will love him. So now the second child who pleased the mother so well, karma will take that child to be born by a lady who will tell the husband, "I got a child. Okay, come here and see a doctor. All the preservatives, all the vitamins from A to Z will be given you." All because of what? You are very pleasing. And the father and mother also very pleasing. A wonderful child is coming. And because of the very good nature, the child that is in the stomach brings his own karma. And this is called certain stages where they have overflowing karma. The child is there, the father is making good money, the mother probably strike a lot of echo. And the family was really very happy. So this sort of thing is called physical karma and takes you to be reborn. I put this law of karma in my own perspective. Now there is such a thing. The Buddhas probably presume that there are three types of karma. One is this physical karma that you have been doing and that result in your physical body. And your behavior also is different. You come back, you're born as a child, you find that because the father and mother didn't love you, you also don't love the father and mother. And probably one Sunday, instead of getting up at 6 o'clock to get the bus, but Sunday being a holiday, you slept up till 8 o'clock. And the father and mother, stupid fellow, already 8 o'clock. And you can see the mother or the father using the leg, hey, get up lah, kick the child. Physical karma is there. You don't love the father don't love you, and when you get kicked, that stupid fellow, stupid mother, stupid father. And the more you create these ill feelings, you are going down and down, down and down. But if you know how to love your father and mother, you are going to lead a very happy life. That is one. That is called physical action. The next thing the Buddha saw was mental reaction. It is our duty as Buddhists. We must always use sweet, pleasant words. To your husband, to your child, to your father, to your mother. Learn it every day until it becomes automatic in you. So much so that you ask the child, say, bloody fool, no lah, these sort of things I don't do lah. So it becomes automatic. And this is the way. So you see, every day you just say, darling. Of course, Chinese don't use the word darling. You call him Akao. Then you call it Anya. Wonderful. So when you do like that, Akao, Anya, can you, my trouser is torn, can you patch for me, please? Oh yeah, I'm sorry lah, I didn't do it lah, I'm sorry lah, please lah. They were nice, very nice. Instead of shouting at the wife, silly fellow, he didn't see my trouser torn lah. And the wife was so hot-tempered. I must always look at your buttock. And the husband said, as a wife, it's your duty to look at my buttock. So where's the book? Show me that the wife must always look at this sort of thing. So sometimes you see husband and wife, they quarrel, and 6 months they never talk. This is a very horrible thing. Sometimes I ask them, what's wrong? Why you don't talk to your wife? That silly ass. She thinks she's big. So these sort of things are wrong. And you keep on shouting to your wife, and the wife shouts at you, and the child will be looking, father, mother. And when they, among themselves, they say, you chao lok, you see Yao Xiu, you see Ten Yao, you see Ao Kui. And then as a neighbor, you ask, why are you talking all these evil words? Who taught you all these things? I always heard my father and mother talking like that, so I follow lah. So you see, by behaving well, pleasant speech, sweet echo words, when you hear, I say, vaya suju lah, that sort of thing, that attitude will go down generation to generation. You talk to your parents nicely, and the grandchild is looking. You go father, mother, and then to your wife, my dear, Nyawe, can you do this for me? Okay. And then Akawe, when you're going to town, can you buy for me this onion scanner? Yes, I will do it. So this sort of things, if you always use sweet, pleasant words, the vipaka is such that every time you are born, you will be receiving sweet words. The father and the mother, instead of getting at 8 a.m. you are still sleeping, the mother probably come up. Kawe, why you still sleeping? 8 o'clock already, you know. What's wrong? Probably the mother will put the palm on the forehead. Nothing wrong with you. What's wrong? You're tired, Hey, this morning I cooked something. Chow fan. You better come out and eat. After eating, you want to sleep, you sleep again. How wonderful, what a wonderful life. Instead of getting kicked, and here it is a very pleasant thing. So this thing is called vachikama. Vachikama, you always use sweet, pleasant words until you can never even utter the word damn fool also. No such things. It becomes your nature character. There's another one, mental karma. Always full of love. Always pity your mother, overworked. Mom, this bucket of clothes every day. Pitiful. Let me wash for you. Chop, 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 chop. Why you do it? In spite of the fact that you have still a lot of homework, why do you do it? Because you love your mother. And the mother, sometimes you go to the room and look at the face in the mirror and look, what a wonderful child. At this moment, always feel very sorrowful that I'm overworked. It's a really wonderful child. And this is the way, this is called, when you always shower love on the child. Everywhere you are born, you are going to be loved by everyone. So this is called manokama. Yes, now it's vachikama, and then this is kaya kama. I put it in my own way. And then of course I'm not in a position to talk very much because actually I'm an old man, but I'm a baby monk. As long as you are not up to 10 years old as a monk, we always call ourselves baby monk. So sometimes when I talk to our chief, I feel a sort of inferiority complex. That is really in me, I tell you, because this is the way. And actually, karma works it this way. Mind, verbal, and physical. And if you know how to do everything pleasantly, sweetly, you are always on the happy side. And you are always full of sulkiness, anger, and you're probably kicking things here and there. You are going to suffer all these things. So this is a simple arithmetic of karma, very simple. So children must always try to know that this karma is very, very important. Actually, if you know Buddhism, there are actually these 5 types of karma. One is Sabe Satta Kama Saka, Kama Dayada, Kama Yoni, Kama Bandhu, Kama Patisarana. Karma is a property. Your father gives you property, is Pinja Muni. But if you are really good, you do everything happily, full of joy, everywhere you go, you are born saturated with everything. You have money, you have a pleasant wife, you have pleasant children. So karma is a property. And what your father and mother gives you are just on loan. It can be stolen. It will just disappear because your karma is finished. But what you do brings you from life to life. There was a case, a man who has never done any dana, but one day he saw a monk, and he was crossing a bridge, and he saw a monk. And that particular day he suddenly had a spontaneous joy, and he just asked the monk casually, is there anything that you have in the bowl? And the monk showed him an empty bowl. And he ran, he told the pitch, run home and get a plate of my food into this bowl. And the pitch went to the wife and told, put all my tauke's food into this bowl. And for that little action, 7 lives born as a rich man. And this is a case where very unique, never done any karma, and he did it, and he had 7 lives. And if you calculate, I do my own calculation, 1 plate of rice, let us say, costs $1. 7 lives, 700 multiplied by 360 multiplied by 3 meals a day, it works out to, for $1 you spend, $876 of profit. What is accord to you? Nothing else. This is wonderful accord, sure. So you can see, karma is a very wonderful thing. And this is called karma is your own property. Karma is carries you from life to life, to this place to that place, to be born as a rich man, to be born as a prince, to be born as a poor man. All these things, karma. And you must understand, karma more or less helps you if you have done something very nasty. From now onwards, practice good karma so that all the good karmas will more or less overwhelm those evil karma that you have done. And there will be a case where when evil karma ripens, the supportive karma, or the counteractive karma will come and neutralize that thing, and you'll find that your unpleasantness will not be a very difficult thing. So karma is very important. The next thing, when you are a meditator, you will understand there is only this what you call mind and matter. And these are people who are practicing meditation, and when they know it is only mind and matter, they must always try to purify their mind. And then the third thing is that you must understand that it is this ripening of these things that you have done that is your ultimate property. Conditionality he has seen. And if he carries on meditation because of his virtue, penetrative power is increased, and you will see that there is only mind and matter, and he sees that everything is just anicca, dukkha, anatta. And he realizes that whatever good that I have done will never be lost. And if you have a good determination to run out of samsara, this will help you in your future lives. Many people who attain Sotapati or Sakadagami is all because of the aspiration. And the last thing we must also know that after all these things, Magga Phala will come to you if you are matured for it. So these 5 things you must know. Karma is your property. Karma tells you that there is actually no being. There is only mind and matter. And all these things are under conditionality. If you know how to dedicate your life to people who are suffering, the time comes when you are suffering, you are also going to be helped. So, and then you penetrate, you'll find that there's only this what you call conditionality. All these things are impermanent. And then once you understand impermanent, you will know that nothing in this world will give you everlasting joy. And after that, you will penetrate, you will see that that's non-self. And this non-self is what you call attainment. Once you have attained, you say goodbye to the King Yama. I'm not going to see you anymore. And you are going to be reborn another 7 times. And if you penetrate until you attain Arahanta, you say goodbye to this universe. That is about all that I have to say. Thank you very much.
Akasatta ca bhummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditta cirang rakkhantu lokasasanam ittavata ca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe devanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya devo assatu kalena sassa sampatti hetu ca Pitho bhavatu loko ca raja bhavatu dhammiko idang unyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.